It's the direct response playbook. My name is Travis Ketchum, founder of Campaign Refinery. Here we have.
David Cardilano. I'm the owner of Wealthy Inbox.
So, we're all about email marketing and digital marketing in general, which by nature means we use marketing technology, or Martech for short. I've used a ridiculous amount of tools over the years, between building my own tools, integrating with other tools, using other tools. I've got so many tools, it's ridiculous, right? That I've touched over the years. I know you've worked with a lot of clients in the past, and upgraded your life to the newsletter world. I'm sure you've used more tools than you've probably forgotten more than most people ever even know.
Repressed with some, but yes.
Yeah. So if you're here today, you're probably trying to understand, first of all, what is a Martech stack? Because that's kind of a inside baseball term to start with. And then within that, I really sort of feel like there's two philosophies about a Martech stack. And so David and I are going to go through those today and explain that there are pros and cons to both. And we each have our own approach to it, I think. But first of all, let's just kind of explain, what is a Martech stack? So a stack is essentially the layers of marketing technology that are core for running your business. That's how I interpret it. So things like, what is your website built on? How do you manage your contacts? How do you send them information? How do you manage the pipeline? How do you text them? Anything required for the entire journey from prospect to customer and post-customer transactions, as well as how you deliver your content, is all intertwined into this like yarn ball of marketing technology that makes up your digital business. Do you think that's a fair description?
Yeah, I'm going to default to my typical thing on podcasts and compare stuff to food. But yeah, I see Martech as your tech stack is, okay, if we have a hamburger, we have a software that's making the bun. We have a software that's grinding the meat. We have a software that's, mixing the cheese, and so on and so forth, right?
Or even abstracted more, that's raising the cow to milk them to make the cheese, make cheese.
Exactly. We can get as meta as we want. We're all in the matrix. So yeah, that's really, that nails it perfectly. It's the tools you use to run the business you have.
Now, there are two competing, and I would say almost, I don't want to get political, so let's maybe go with the Sony versus Canon type of, cult-like followings between the two philosophies of Martech stacks and what they should look like. Do you want to run down what those sort of two are in a nutshell, and then we can go back and forth about the pros and cons of each?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first philosophy you'll see, and a lot of CRMs have this philosophy and they say it in their marketing, is, a jack of all trades, Swiss Army knife. It builds funnels, websites, sends emails, tucks your mom in at night. It does everything and anything, and you only have to pay this one price forever and ever, right?
Which is usually a very low price, because they're usually trying to show a pricing table that says, instead of paying for the enterprise grade of 45 tools so that we can get the biggest number we can possibly find, we'll instead charge you this absurdly low number that's an all-you-can-eat buffet.
Exactly. So you have that school of thought, and then you also have the other school of thought, which is one tool has its purpose, right? You have, again, going back to the hamburger analogy, okay, we have our meat grinder. It's not making lettuce for us. It is not growing lettuce for us. We have the meat grinder and we buy it because we want to grind the meat and make the best patty possible. So that means the alternate school of thought means you just have a bunch of tools stacked up in your Martech stack, right? So those are the two schools of thought around it.
Yeah, and there are definitely some different sets of trade-offs for each. Now, I'm going to go through the one that I don't actually favor, because I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I'm going to put on my alternative hat today, and we're going to talk about the all-in-one solution, because I totally understand the appeal about having an all-in-one solution in general, because it can eliminate things like integration headaches between, making sure that data is passed through correctly, timely, and easily between the various tools. When you have one tool, you have one system to train your team on, you have one bill to pay. There's obvious direct financial benefits, but there may be indirect financial costs that you're not really seeing. but we're going through the pros. Just it's one system, one login, one training, one bill, right? That is certainly an attractive thing. However, the cons of that are not insignificant, because what it usually means is you are not getting the maximum performance out of each available feature. So for example, in marketing technology specifically, whatever landing page builder is baked into your all-in-one tool, I can guarantee you is not going to be as competent as a dedicated landing page builder where that tool's only purpose for existence is giving you everything about landing pages, split testing, page load times, fonts, colors, layouts, the way that it presents content, the way you edit and generate content to publish, the way that it maps to your domain. All of those things are going to almost 99.99999% of the time be notably superior with a dedicated tool. Right? So that is a clear differentiator. And that is true for everything in the stack. And that's why when we built Campaign Refinery, I said, well, look, at the time we were using a sort of pseudo all-in-one tool. Don't need to name them, but their colors are green and white. And at the time, they were failing us at the thing that we valued in our business the most, which was email. And so I said, okay, well, let's try to build something that is the best at just this email thing and don't get distracted by all the other accoutrements of an all-in-one platform. We wanted to really be truly best in class at one thing and stay in our lane. And so that was why it drove us the decision we are, have ultimately gone over the last few years. But again, I totally see the appeal of the all-in-one solution. Now, David, as someone who has been in all-in-one solutions and has been in dedicated platforms, give me the reverse, the pro and con of the independent systems.
Oh boy. All right. I'll try to keep this to 3 hours. I'm kidding. So Charlie Munger has a saying that I really appreciate, and he has the quote, "A man who doesn't pay for a superior tool is already paying for it." And in my experience, using multiple all-in-one platforms, I haven't found a single one. And I'm in newsletters, I'm in email, okay? So for email, for me, in my experience, which is completely up for debate, right? But for me, I've never found an all-in-one solution that got better email results quantitatively compared to a singular email solution. And the way I see it, going back to the food analogy, it's kind of like you could have a corkscrew that costs $97, or you can have a Swiss Army knife that's got a corkscrew in it for $97. And I can almost guarantee it that the corkscrew that you bought for $97 is going to work better than the Swiss Army knife, and it's not going to cut your finger in the process, right? So when
or break after for a few uses, or
exactly
get stuck in the cork, or hurt your hand, or
it's all-in-one tools are beautiful on paper, and they can work very well though. And I don't want to say, if you have an all-in-one tool and that's working for your business and you're making millions of dollars, this is not an advertisement to change it. You are the captain of your ship, the master of your fate. So you decide. I just know in my experience, especially when I'm working with email lists that are getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, that means that I need a solution that can support that level, that size of list. Otherwise, if I'm running and sending emails out to multiple stadiums of people, and I'm on an all-in-one solution that's really meant for 5-figure, 6-figure businesses and side hustles, I know that system is going to break. And I want to trust a system that can truly handle that level of sending, which means it needs to spend the money on the infrastructure in order to do so. Right. And I know that $97 corkscrew, they're allocating a lot of that $97 into making a better corkscrew, not a better compass on the Swiss Army knife that I don't need.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's it.
Definitely true. Now, that being said, I think depending on where you are in your business, an all-in-one might be a great place to start, because I have a lot of empathy for cash flow management, especially early in a venture. But I think for a lot of people, it probably does make sense at some point. And again, every person has to make this evaluation on their own to then potentially graduate from the all-in-one solutions into a very specific stack of best-in-class services that fit the exact needs of their business at the time. Right? So you're not
Yep.
buying something that has a bunch of potentially flashy or nice-to-have features that you don't use. Instead, if you really care about website performance because you have an SEO strategy, you probably want to go get a really good hosting provider and a really good, way to manage your content. And if that's going into an email list, and if that's your whole game, website traffic to email list, you better have a damn good host, a damn good way to manage your content, and a damn good email list provider, right? And you're generally not going to get those three things in an elite factor for something that has 450 items. And a second piece that I do want to sort of underscore, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, because if it does enough for what you need, that's great. But if you are buying into software and you think about the philosophy of technology in general, you generally want to see your technology moving forward, getting faster, being easier to use, or having more specific advancements of features that make your life better and adhere to the new best practices and guiding principles that do change over time. Now, if you are running an all-in-one solution, generally speaking, you do not have the team large enough or configured in the proper way to give each individual sub-feature its own sort of P&L and live or die by its own feature set, which pushes it forward. What generally happens, I think, if you look at these all-in-one tools, they usually have one core strength that's really, really good, and then they will occasionally take focus away from the core strength to kind of sort of give some love to one of the other items in the list. And so what you end up doing is you end up getting an okay, mediocre at best, subset of the things that aren't their core competency. And the frequency and interval at which it gets updated is few and far between. Because when it gets love, it gets a mad dash, it gets some features, it gets a little bit more competitive, and then doesn't get touched for a couple of years. And so if that's the thing you care about, for example, I love Apple stuff, right? And it's clear that Apple cares about certain things more than others. The HomePod isn't getting an every year update. The iPhone is, right? The AirPods Max, which I really want to pair, like those things, other than getting a different color and a different plug, have the exact same chip in them as 4 years ago when they came out. If it's a thing you care about and the company doesn't have it as a focus, it's an unfortunate situation where you're like, please update this thing in a way that is meaningful to me. Whereas if you go to just a headphone company, they're coming out with new revisions, new colors, new form factors, right? And so that you can see that the product is making a meaningful march forward on a regular interval. And if that is a thing that's really important in your stack, your narrow stack, that is something that you should not take for granted. So obviously I've got passionate feelings about this. Technology is my jam. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
I mean, touche all the way. And as a business owner, you have to make your own choices. We're not here to tell you what to buy and what to invest in. But from our experiences, from you, Travis, from building softwares out, which is something that I've never done in my life, at least not yet. I don't know what's in store. But as someone sitting on the consumer side, I can say that for me, it's flashy versus utility. And if you are going to put a lot of utility into a feature, then that feature should, in my experience, should be its own company. It should be its own thing. If I'm getting a CRM for something, but the CRM itself has a lot of different features, but I don't really need them, but it does one thing really, really well, then I'm essentially treating the CRM also like a singular purpose software too at the same time. So you do your due diligence, buyer beware. It's just what I've noticed from buying a lot of digital corkscrews over the years. And I think, Travis, you and I have had similar experiences buying Swiss Army knives.
Yeah, I mean, they're very cool. I've got Leatherman and Swiss Army knives. I'm literally an Eagle Scout, so there's definitely utility and a time and a place for those things. But, if you're trying to cut down a tree, it's not going to be the right tool.
Yep.
Cool. Well, thanks for tuning in. If you liked what you heard today, give us a thumbs up. If you want to know more about email marketing and digital marketing in general, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to know more about growing, selling, exiting a newsletter, check out David at wealthyinbox.news. And if you are looking for a single purpose, best in class email tool Campaign Refinery is in the link in the description. And if you're like, hey, I just want to know more about specific tools, because we didn't go through a bunch of competitors and all these different categories, we have a really good content team, and we actually put together an awesome blog post for you. So if you're like, hey, I want to find, so what are my all-in-one options? What are some of my dedicated options? We have a great list for that down below. Until next time, I'm Travis. David, we'll talk soon.
Take care.